If you woke up tomorrow and realized that almost every belief you hold about who you are, what success means, what's beautiful, what's dangerous, what's true, had been carefully planted in your mind, would you want to know who put them there? The illusion of freedom is more powerful than any cage. Most people don't need chains or walls to be controlled. They just need a set of thoughts they believe are their own. And that's exactly how modern control works. Not through brute force, but through silent influence. Through media, marketing, education, entertainment, even our own habits and desires. This isn't about aliens, secret cults, or conspiracy cliches. This is about the invisible system that shapes collective behavior using tools we interact with every single day. And the most disturbing part, most people defend this system without even realizing it. That's how deep the programming runs. Let's go back in time. In the early 20th century, the idea of women smoking in public was taboo. It was associated with rebellion and disgrace. But during an Easter parade in New York, a group of elegant women lit cigarettes all at once, calling them torches of freedom. The public saw it as a bold feminist statement. But the truth, it was a marketing stunt. Orchestrated by Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, hired by the American Tobacco Company. Bernays understood something revolutionary. You don't need to promote a product, you promote an identity, an emotion, a dream. By associating smoking with empowerment, he hacked the subconscious of a generation, and it worked. Cigarette sales among women exploded, but more importantly, that event marked the beginning of something much bigger: engineered consent. That's the real subject here, not marketing, not media, but the systematic shaping of public thought and behavior. What Bernays started with cigarettes, others perfected with politics, war, social movements, and digital platforms. Today, you're not just being sold products, you're being sold versions of yourself, roles, lifestyles, narratives. Your feeds don't just entertain you, they construct your identity. Every swipe, every scroll, every like is data, fuel for a feedback loop that learns how to better control your preferences tomorrow. We live in a digital dreamscape that feels spontaneous, but is anything but. Algorithms decide what you see, who you hear, what you believe is trending. But what if I told you that what goes viral isn't what's true? It's what keeps you distracted, divided, and docile. Look at your screen. Your phone isn't just a device. It's a weaponized attention machine designed to make sure you never pause long enough to question the system shaping your life. That endless stream of content isn't random. It's curated, it's calculated, and its goal is not to inform you, it's to condition you. In the past, media was limited to a handful of channels. Today, it's infinite, but that doesn't mean it's free. What you see, what you don't see, what gets amplified and what gets buried, it's all the result of powerful filters. These filters don't just shape public opinion. They define the boundaries of acceptable thought. They don't censor your ideas directly. They guide you so subtly that censorship isn't even necessary. They don't tell you what to think, they tell you what to think about. This is where it gets dangerous, because when your worldview is shaped by what's trending, what's viral, what everyone else seems to believe, you stop asking questions. You start conforming, and the system doesn't need to fight you. It just nudges you until you become a willing participant in your own programming. Mass entertainment plays its role too. Movies, shows, music videos, they're not just for fun. They're vehicles for messaging, emotional delivery systems. Every explosion, every romantic scene, every underdog victory story is built on templates designed not just to entertain, but to condition, to romanticize war, to glorify surveillance, to normalize dysfunction. There's a reason war movies get full cooperation from the Pentagon, because they're not just films, they're tools, public relations for power. And when the hero is always the soldier, when the villain is always foreign, when violence always ends with honor, you train an entire generation to equate obedience with bravery and questioning with weakness. But it doesn't stop with action movies. The emotional manipulation runs deeper. Sitcoms teach you what a normal life looks like. Reality shows teach you that humiliation equals entertainment. Music videos bombard you with hypersexual imagery so aggressively that you stop noticing. You start absorbing, and the more distracted you are, the easier you are to manage. The Roman Empire called it bread and circus. Feed the people, entertain them, and they won't revolt. Today, the bread is processed and the circus is digital. Same principle, different tools, same results. You might think you're immune. You're not. None of us are. That's the nature of conditioning. It works best when you believe it isn't happening to you. Let's talk about school. Not the textbooks, not the tests, but the hidden curriculum, the part nobody talks about. You're told education is the key to freedom, but the way the system is built, it doesn't teach you to think. It teaches you to comply. From the moment you enter a classroom, you're taught to sit still, raise your hand, memorize, repeat. Creativity is replaced with conformity. Curiosity is replaced with structure. Instead of learning how to think, you're told what to think, within pre-approved limits. Questioning the system isn't encouraged. It's penalized. And this isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Because independent thinkers are unpredictable. Obedient specialists, on the other hand, are easy to manage. That's the real goal, not enlightenment. Efficiency, not critical thinking, control. Universities, which should be centers of intellectual rebellion, have become factories of ideological reproduction. Students leave with degrees, but often without real insight. They can quote theories, but can't see the structures they live under. They're overloaded with facts, but deprived of meaning. Why? Because a population that knows too much becomes dangerous. It asks questions, it organizes, it resists, but a population that's technically educated, just enough to work the machines, follow the rules, meet deadlines, is perfectly functional, not free, just useful. And it's not just what's taught, it's what's left out. You'll learn formulas and frameworks, but not how media manipulates perception. You'll study history, but not the financial systems that dictate your present. You'll graduate understanding supply chains, but not power structures. And that's not accidental. The system doesn't want thinkers, it wants performers, people who follow instructions, meet quotas, and stay too distracted to realize the game they're playing. Outside the classroom, distraction continues. Hypersexualized culture floods your senses. Ads, music videos, influencer trends, they're not just entertainment, they're programming. They hit your lower instincts. Constant stimulation, no reflection. For men, it's often about empty dopamine, porn, games, power fantasies. The goal is exhaustion, drain energy, keep him passive. For women, it's constant comparison, objectification, performance. The goal is disconnection. Disrupt natural feminine energy, replace it with insecurity and overconsumption, and it works. Billions are made from the void that this system carefully creates inside us. And the solution? They sell it back to you. Products, services, fake empowerment campaigns, everything but actual freedom. This is cultural engineering, designed not by accident but by intent. Not through force but through programming, and the longer we accept it, the more we internalize it. If this is resonating with you, it's not by accident. You're here because something inside you refuses to stay asleep. So before you keep scrolling, before you get pulled back into the feed, pause. Ask yourself, how much of what I believe was handed to me? And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That means you're alive. That means the program is cracking. Stay with this. Question everything. Share this with someone who's starting to see it too, because once enough of us break the script, they lose the story. You believe you're in control, that your choices are your own, but the truth is, most decisions you make are already made before you consciously think them. Decades of behavioral science confirm it. The human brain reacts before it reflects. Emotion triggers action. Logic comes later, often just to justify what you already did on instinct. And those instincts, they're being hijacked. Modern advertising doesn't try to convince you. It bypasses reason altogether. It speaks directly to your subconscious. A baby in a diaper commercial, a tearful reunion in a car ad, a half-second flash of skin in a soda promo. These aren't accidents, they're calculated cues. Each one lights up a primal part of your brain. Desire, nostalgia, fear, lust, belonging. They don't want your attention, they want your impulse. It's called neuromarketing, and it's not science fiction, it's neuroscience, weaponized. You're not buying things because you need them, you're buying feelings, reassurance, identity, status. You're being emotionally manipulated at scale, and every time you say, "I don't know why I bought that," the system smiles. That confusion is proof that it's working, but it doesn't stop at the mall. The same manipulation happens in politics, in news, in public opinion. They don't change your mind. They change the frame around the discussion. They feed you an emotional narrative, make you feel threatened, feel angry, feel righteous, then hand you a simple enemy to blame and a solution to support, usually one that gives them more control. And because you felt it before you thought it, you believe it must be true. That's why public discourse today feels like chaos. It's not an accident, it's design. Emotional overload creates confusion. Confusion creates division. Division creates obedience. People are so busy fighting each other, they don't realize they're all inside the same cage. And in that cage, you're trained to self-regulate, to censor yourself, to second-guess every instinct that doesn't match the narrative. They don't need to silence you, you do it for them. That's the end game, internalized control, a population that polices itself, distracts itself, and happily participates in its own manipulation. So when someone starts to wake up, starts to break the pattern, the system reacts fast, not with force, but with labels: conspiracy theorist, extremist, outcast, anything to push you back into the herd. But if you've made it this far, it means part of you already knows something's off. And that part of you, the silent part that questions, that resists, that sees, is the one they fear most. You think control comes from surveillance, from cameras, microphones, and data tracking, but the most powerful control systems are much older, much quieter, and they hide in the things you consume every single day. Start with food. The industrial food system isn't just about feeding people, it's about shaping behavior through biology. The specific combinations of salt, sugar, and fat in your snacks aren't random. They're engineered to hijack your brain's reward circuits. The goal is not nutrition, it's addiction. Processed foods aren't designed to fuel your body, they're designed to keep you coming back. Low energy, chronic fatigue, mood swings, these aren't side effects. They're intentional, because when you're tired and unfocused, you're easy to distract, easy to manage, easy to sell to. Now look at health. What we call healthcare is actually a trillion-dollar sickness industry. Pharmaceutical corporations don't profit when you thrive, they profit when you're dependent. So instead of solving root causes, they offer lifelong treatments. Instead of asking why people are anxious or depressed, they define those emotions as disorders, pathologize discomfort, medicalize the human condition. Feeling sad becomes depression. Being quiet becomes a syndrome. Struggling to focus in a world of distraction becomes ADHD. And the answer? Always a pill. A product. A subscription to chemical management. It's not healing, it's control disguised as care. And it works because we've been taught to outsource authority, to trust the white coat, the blue check mark, the glowing screen, to believe that any deviation from the norm must be a problem, and that the solution must come from outside of us. Finance is no different. Banks sell debt as opportunity, credit as freedom. But it's not freedom when you're chained to interest payments and fees, it's servitude in disguise. You borrow money to live today and pay it back for the rest of your life. They don't need to raise taxes when they already own your time. This system doesn't need tyrants. It runs on habits, on routine, on silent contracts you never sign but live by every day. Work 9 hours, watch 3 hours of entertainment, scroll for 1, sleep just enough to repeat, and within that loop, the idea of freedom becomes a fantasy. Not because you're in a prison, but because the prison is invisible. You were born inside it, taught to love it, and told anyone who questions it is dangerous. But here's the shift. Once you see the system, you can't unsee it. The veil doesn't go back on, and when awareness rises, control weakens. That's why so much energy is spent keeping you distracted, divided, and doubtful. Because the last thing they want is for you to remember who you really are. There's a kind of silence you feel right before everything changes. Not the silence of sleep, but the silence that comes just before you wake up. If you've made it this far, you already know the system is real. You've seen its layers: media, entertainment, education, food, pharma, finance. But now we arrive at the final piece, the part no system can touch unless you let it, your mind. Because the ultimate tool of control isn't what they do to you, it's what they train you to do to yourself. They want you to doubt your intuition, to silence your questions, to betray your instincts. They want you so wrapped in noise, habits, guilt, and fear that you never stop to ask the most dangerous question of all. What if everything I've been told is a lie? That's the moment they lose power over you. But here's the truth they never want you to discover. Control only works on the unconscious. The second you become aware, truly aware, the system begins to collapse. Not out there, in here, because the walls weren't made of steel, they were made of belief. You were never meant to live a life of passive consumption, anxious distraction, and quiet desperation. You were built to create, to question, to evolve. But a system built on obedience can't afford awake minds. So it offers you dopamine instead of purpose, comfort instead of clarity, safety instead of sovereignty, and it wraps it all in words like progress, normal, and success, hoping you'll mistake sedation for peace. But sedation isn't peace, it's paralysis. So you have a choice, right now. Not in theory, not in some distant revolution, but right here, in how you wake up tomorrow, in how you speak, in what you consume, in what you stop consuming, in the questions you finally allow yourself to ask. They can program your feed, they can flood your senses, but they can't own your awareness unless you give it to them. So ask yourself one last question. When the world pushes you to fit the mold, when everything around you whispers, "Stay asleep," will you listen, or will you be the glitch in the algorithm, the voice in the silence, the one who remembers? Because you were never just a number in their machine. You were never meant to be controlled. You were born free, and now you know it. You